Thank you for attending Day 2 of the Natural Stone Institute Stone World Virtual Stone Summit. We are really excited about this event as we have registrations from across the country and the world. One thing we always try to do is provide a unique experience for the stone industry. During this virtual event, we will have a number of unique features. Some of these features include an active chat box with links to products, opportunities to ask questions through a chat box, and yesterday, we held our first virtual trade show. Before we get started, we wanted to direct you to the chat box on your screen. During our discussion, we will provide additional information and links about topics that we discuss. You will also find a link to information about our sponsors. If you are calling into the session, we want to caution you that you may not hear some of the videos that we play. You will, however, receive a recording of this session after the session, so you will be able to hear the recordings at that point. Without further ado, I would like to introduce today's moderator, GK Naquin. GK started in the stone industry in 1974 when he joined the startup company Intrepid Enterprises. He served as the CFO for Intrepid Enterprises for 25 years before starting his own company, Stone Interiors. GK has been an active member of the Natural Stone Institute since 2003 and served as the board president in 2011. His passion for bettering the industry can be found in his involvement in the accreditation and education programs. In the past 12 years, GK has facilitated over 40 stone industry education events and at least 50 other sessions in international trade shows. Please welcome GK Naquin.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you, Aaron, for that great introduction. It just means I'm old, that's all. The situation we're looking at today, and I hope everybody is prepared to be a participant and send in your questions. We'll try to address all of those questions during this summit. And if not, please send in the questions and we can answer them maybe later in a different format to you. So we like to have participation. So please send in any questions that we're not covering or something we haven't covered in detail that you may want to know. Today's topics are on the screen. It's the illness in COVID-19. We'll talk in detail about all of these situations. Silica plant exposure, the pandemic response. We have found that those are very similar in the safety procedures for the pandemic as it is in the silica exposure. And then we'll have how do we handle procedures in our shop, and how do we handle procedures in our install format. So when we look at these topics, if you have any questions, please put them down, because as we go through the slides, we'll address them with each of the panel members, okay? Again, please use that question box. Now what we'll do is start off by having a word from our sponsor, MSI. And I think you'll see a great video on that.
MSI is North America's largest independent source of flooring, wall and countertop surfaces, with over $1 billion in sales and 1,800 employees worldwide. We enable people to create beautiful living and working spaces at any budget by partnering with global suppliers from over 36 countries to import over 50,000 containers annually, and making the greatest assortment of products accessible to everyone. We are the go-to source for all surfacing products, from everyday basics to the most design-forward trends, including porcelain and ceramic tile, quartz and natural stone slabs, mosaics, wall tile, and LVT. Our expansive network of showrooms and distribution centers featuring over 125 million square feet of inventory and 5,000 stocking SKUs, along with our nationwide fleet of over 150 MSI trucks, deliver regional and national inventory to get you what you need when you need it.
MSI is a game changer and innovator in the surfacing industry.
Our purpose is to make dream surfaces attainable, and that means to make dream surfaces available to everyone in North America.
You can rely on MSI for the greatest assortment of affordable products with accessible inventory and attentive service, delivering on our goal of making dream surfaces attainable.
The MSI advantage for our customers is we're there for a long term, which means they can count on us to grow their business.
When we look at the future of MSI, we think the future is very bright. Every day is a new day with new challenges, and we want to take them head on. So it's a tremendous opportunity.
We work hard every day to make our products affordable and accessible.
MSI is future-focused, continuously searching the globe for the greatest range of quality products that fit within all price points, allowing anyone to make their dreams attainable. MSI, making dream surfaces attainable.
Thank you, Aaron. What we're going to do now is I'd like to introduce our esteemed panelists here. And again, Aaron introduced me. I'm GK Naquin, Stone Interiors. And what I'd like to do is go through each panelist. If you would introduce yourself. Jonathan, would you like to go first?
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Jonathan Mitnick, and I'm partner at CCS Stone in Moonachie, New Jersey. We're in the New Jersey Meadowlands, right outside of New York City, and service the greater New York area, tri-state region. But we also ship around the United States and have some export to other countries. The company was formed in 1963, so we're 57 years young. I've been active in it for about 35 years. And we do fabrication and wholesale and installation. We have the company is NSI accredited. We're the first and only New Jersey accredited company. I'm currently serving the Stone Institute Board of Directors, and I'm the Post Safety Committee Chairman that I served in 2015, but I'm still a member of the Safety Committee. I do speaking events at coverings. I contribute to Stone World Magazine on the subjects of OSHA compliance and slab handling safety, among other things. Good to be here.
Thank you, Jonathan. Corky, how about your introduction?
Okay, this is Jeff Corky Courtright. We got two Jeffs on the panel, so we're going to be going by my nickname, I think, through the webinar here. I'm a safety coordinator at Planet Granite. Been in the construction industry about 45 years, so I think GK's got one more year on me. And been doing the safety, besides construction, been doing safety training. I'm actually an OSHA outreach trainer here in Colorado, and been doing that for 20 years, being involved with that. And I've worked with safety consultants here in Colorado also. Our company's been around since 1998, and we do brag about our safety records and how we're keeping our workers safe. So it's good to be on the panel.
Great, thank you, Corky. Jeff.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm Jeff Erickson. I'm one of the co-founders of Cutting Edge Countertops. We started in 2006, and we're a regional countertop company. We operate in mid-Michigan, Indianapolis area, and also our headquarters and plant is in Perrysburg, Ohio, which is Toledo area, and we service that area as well, and as well as other parts nearby Toledo area. So we go a couple hours all directions. So yeah, we're about 165 people. You know, I'm ushered in along with Jonathan as an NSI Board of Directors freshman class. The two of us started that earlier this year. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. We're going to start. We have polls in each segment of our presentation today. And I'd like everybody to fill it out. It's only going to stay up for about a minute. So check the ones that says work safety procedures do you currently use for employees who report to work. Check those that apply to you. It's interesting. We'll have a results of that very shortly. It's only going to stay open between 30 seconds or so. So please check that. That'll give us an idea of what's going on in the industry total, at least from the participants we have here on the call. So if y'all wouldn't mind the 55 of y'all signing in and checking that off. We'll start with our with the poll questions. Temperature checks, symptom checks, employee sanitation procedures, and staggering work assignments. Our next section that we'll be covering covers all of those. There it is. Okay, so only 44% of us do temperature checks. 72% do symptom checks, and that's really, really good. 89% use sanitation, and then staggering workflow. That's only 11%. That's pretty interesting comment there, because that's one of the things that that we see could help in that COVID environment. We'll go ahead and proceed on right now, and the first topic is basically the same thing you just read, and it's most fabricators that I've contacted monitor their employees daily, and I think that's real important that we at least, if somebody's sick or has a cold or a fever, we immediately ask them to get tested or to go home and let's in quarantine a little bit, because we just don't want to have someone that is has a fever coming in, because we don't know that it'll spread. One of the biggest aspects we all know is that if COVID spread around your workforce and knocked out 4 or 5, 6 of your crews, we'd all be in difficult situation. So with that in mind, I'd like to go ahead and go to the panel. And Jeff, we'll go to you first on this question. Would you share with us what you guys are doing and what you have seen in the industry?
So we probably felt much like everybody on this call has felt, just trying to figure out what the heck was going on. Early on, we started a response team for COVID. There's about 5 of us, and we did a lot of things. We have a really good management staff here, and I certainly can't take credit for almost all the stuff that they came up with, which is phenomenal. It's important that we and I'm sure many of you make safety a number 1 priority, and let your people feel that. And also, it's important to keep the business operating, right? So to do this, it requires trust, which requires transparency and communication. It's really impossible to over communicate, and employees need to know that you have their back. So we found that to be one of the bigger challenges is, when you're sending somebody out in this sort of environment, like an installer, they need to know that you care, because they're going out in the world and they're going to different houses every day and whatnot. So we felt that communication was really, really important. And on top of that, we created a written plan. And I would challenge you guys to, many of you have probably already answered these or have a plan, but I think it's important to have a written plan. What do you do if a team member is potentially exposed? What do you do if a team member is directly exposed to someone with symptoms that tested positive? What do you do when a team member presents symptoms at home or work? What if you have a confirmed employee diagnosis? Team member requests time off due to COVID. That's going to be another issue with all of us is, daycare, are we going back to school? All those things. What if the health department pays a visit? What do you do then? What if an employee needs to be home with their children? You have to know FMLA, all the rules that go along with that. It's big or small, doesn't matter who you are. I think it's important to have that written plan and already know how you're going to respond. We also did things to limit risk. for our installers, we tried to not cross-contaminate the crews. So like many of you, I mean, we all have installers. So if you try to keep them together working and not have, you know, one guy work with another guy on another crew and so forth, if one guy gets sick, it's going to take out that crew. But if you cross-contaminated them with other crews, you could potentially take out a lot more crews. We have showrooms by appointment, which I'm sure many of you do. We wear masks when you can't socially distance. We clean the common areas and surfaces regularly. You know, that's important. It all shows your employees that you're doing the most you can to try to keep everybody safe. We've spaced chairs in our cafeteria, things like that. I would recommend doing some legwork in advance. And I know we have another fabricator that we talked to that learned the hard way. They had somebody in their shop that fell ill, was tested positive, and they shut down for a week because it took 3 days just to find a cleaning company. So if you a good written plan to kind of head off and be prepared for these things that when they happen. So you know, already have a cleaning company ready and on call. So those are the types of things that we did.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Corky, can you tell us what you guys have done so far?
Yeah, just like with Jeff's company, we got about 130 people here at Planet Granite, so a lot of people to look after. And some of the things we've been doing is we've been staggering the startup times, and we actually split our installers with loading their trucks into 2 different shifts, which, you know, we never even thought about it before COVID, and it has actually helped us a little bit. It cuts down on the chaos when the carts and the A-frames are rolling around and the trucks are getting loaded. And so there's some good stuff that's come out of this. It's making people and companies think outside the box. So the staggering of workers. We also have our workers, we used to have everybody come in and hit the time clock. Well, that's an area where people would congregate, and we eliminated that. Well, we didn't completely eliminate it, but half of our people are using a phone app to punch in every day and to punch out. So that's keeping people separated. Some other things we're doing is, you know, we all know we're supposed to do that 6-foot distancing. And so in our little smoking area where the guys smoke, we noticed that we were getting people a little close from where you needed. And of course, they weren't wearing their masks because they were smoking. And so we did make a stick, a 6-foot stick for that area, and labeled it, you know, the distance stick. And you know, it sort of takes a little bit of the harshness off of what everybody's doing. And the guys do take the stick out and poke each other with it a little bit and have a little fun with it. And but it does get the message across that they need to stay 6 feet away. Some other things we've done is we've teamed up with the local home builder association, and we helped them put together a flyer that our workers, you know, we sent it to all the contractors in the area, of course, but then to get it out even further, our workers actually had stacks of those pamphlets, and they would hand those out at their job sites and get the word out. We were very surprised when we did a survey that how many of our contractors didn't realize that we have to wear masks on the job sites. We have to do social distancing. There was, I guess, I don't know if it's ignorance or not being educated out there. So that flyer, handing that out, and we're actually using our installers as sort of a liaison between us to help educate you know, the other construction workers out there. We've been using a lot of you know, of course, disinfecting. We've been disinfecting since November, the start of the flu season. Every year we do the disinfecting. Of course, this year we stepped it up and we're doing it 3 times a day. We do work around the clock 24/7 here. So we have 3 different times a day that we've been disinfecting. And you guys have probably seen this where it's hard to find disinfecting, Lysol, the Clorox. We looked into it, did some research, and we've been using denatured alcohol. You know, we have 55-gallon drums of that around, you know, here at the facility. And we've been, of course, labeling it and putting it in secondary containers and using it and spraying that on the doorknobs, the flush valves, time clocks, time cards, and things like that. So we've been doing that 3 times a day. So sometimes it takes a crisis like this to invent and come up. We never thought we'd be using that denatured the way we are, but it's doing a good job. Another thing we did, our showroom used to be open all the time, open to the public. And of course, when a virus hit, we closed it down and went to by appointment only. And again, this is one of those interesting things. We found out that when we just had our doors open to the public, we had a lot of looky-loos that I guess best they were using up our time, using up our resources. So once we closed the doors and went to appointment only, now we're getting people that are serious about looking at countertops, and our sales staff, they've been cut in half or sent home. And so now we're getting just as many sales as we ever had, and we don't have our doors open. So it's something interesting that we didn't think that would happen. And also, when we do have customers making appointments, we do stagger them, 15, 20, half hour apart, so that when they come into the showroom, by the time the next couple or customer comes in, they're out in the yard looking around, shopping around. And so we're keeping people apart. So we had to modify what we normally did, but it's actually helped us out a little bit.
Great. Thanks, Corky. Appreciate it. Jonathan, how about you?
Yeah, well, we were hit pretty hard in this area. The initial, pandemic onset, made New Jersey a hotspot in the country. It spooked a lot of people, a lot of businesses kind of hunkered down and trying to define whether you were a essential business or non-essential. It was a gray area there that people had to emerge and decide, whether they were their business were considered. For me personally, it's always been therapy to come to work rather than sit at home. So whether we were allowed to be open or not, I was working. But I couldn't say that much for a lot of my customers. We're mostly business to business. If my customers are closed or they've considered themselves non-essential, well, there's really few people to communicate with. So any jobs that were in process, even if we could finish them and we were working, they wouldn't necessarily be installed. But we do the basic protocols. So we have a smaller operation compared to these other gentlemen, 20 or so employees at any given time. So it's fairly easy to communicate our policies and procedures with this. Basic hand sanitizer, gloves, mask. We prepared some notices and some protocols. Our nature of our business is business to business, and we're almost always by appointment only. So we didn't really have the retail type traffic and had to communicate those things. But we do have a lot of concern for our employees, customers, and visitors. We needed to get our head around the best way to deal with it. Being in the New York metropolitan area, if we talk about the 3 states, New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut, we had 3 sets of rules to abide by. They weren't necessarily the same. We kind of had to have a high touch approach towards this thing, reaching out to customers, job sites, finding out specifics about maybe particular buildings in New York that had their own set of rules. If we can conform to the worst case scenario, then we had our plot set and we knew that we can, go in as long as they allowed us. But with the limitations and the number of trades permitted on jobs, sometimes 1 worker was the rule, some towns in New York State. And it's kind of funny when you go to make a delivery and, all the workers see someone pulling up in the driveway, they're all hanging around, hiding behind the corner of the building. They don't know if it's a building inspector or some authority to shut them down. So it was a little challenging, but it opened our eyes up to a few things, and we made that adjustment. The outside sales calls, that type of thing, created the need for us to reach out to customers, a little more than we may normally be before we pay them a visit. Make sure that they're receiving visitors and whatever their adjusted hours are for the pandemic. But there's, you know, a lot of things that we had to do to, you know, mesh our schedules, make it work, and keep the business going. And from a lot of the people that I speak to, other business owners and people coming in and out, they've adjusted, and their businesses have resumed to near pre-COVID levels.
Great. Thank you, Jonathan. One of the things we want to also look at, in most of us are back to pre-COVID levels of production, so we'll get into it. Thanks for that panel. We're going to go to another video right now with our. I'm sorry, Aaron, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and show the video for us.
Recently, we've all navigated through uncharted waters. Over the last several months, we've been agile with our business to meet your needs and have leveraged this time to innovate new solutions. Solutions that will reduce your operating costs, increase your production, and position your company as a market leader. As all of us push through the storm, there are many opportunities that lie ahead. Opportunities for you to refine your manufacturing processes, to reduce your operational costs. Opportunities for you to gain market share, and opportunities for you to meet the increasing and pent-up market demands. As the market rebounds, pressure will be placed on your business to deliver, and equipment reliability and uptime will be crucial. We would enjoy the chance to visit with you and explore innovative solutions. Solutions that will tool your business to meet the great opportunities that are right around the corner. For those of you ready to come out stronger than ever, let's visit. Now is the time. Since 1953, we've been proud to be made in the USA, and we're not going anywhere. It's times like this when you rely heavily on your partners, and you can count on us. Stay safe and strong.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead into our second poll question now, which is coming up, and it says, what new production and installation procedures have you employed? And of course, we have the physical barriers and the new sanitation procedures, create a consistent workflow team, and then update post-installation sanitation procedures. We'll be talking in the next segment about this more directly as we touch on some of these topics in the first section, but we'll get into a little more specific details on this one. And then the following section will handle mainly the installation, how we handle changing our procedures in the field applications, whether it be residential or commercial. So for the next few seconds, we'll, if y'all wouldn't mind filling out this poll. It gave us some real good information on that first poll. Hopefully we'll have the same information coming back on this one here. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and get started while this poll is coming up. I don't see the results. There we go. Implement physical barriers, 11%. You know, new sanitation procedures, pretty much everybody has done that. Create consistent workflow teams, 11%, and then update post-installation procedures. That's some pretty interesting numbers. So basically what we're saying we're doing is just taking the high traffic areas and making sure they're sanitized for our employees. Okay. One of the things that I look at this is in this, and I typically want to talk about the production at this particular slide is what are we doing inside? I know our fabricators and our operators are typically isolated to some degree. They've got their own section of fabrication. A CNC's got his own cutters. You know, he's operating his machine. A saw jet or a robot is got his machine. It's where we have teams that we need to be more concerned with. Jonathan, why don't you go first on this one?
Yeah, so you know, in our shop, they're just naturally spread out. There's at least 10 feet or more between workers, as you described, GK. You know, they have their workstations, their little domain. They work very comfortably in there. You know, even before the virus, at times, you know, workers may employ some masks in their, you know, daily routine. But there's no dry grinding ever here. There's, you know, really no need for the mask. And if they decide the workers want to work without a mask, they're basically in compliance with CDC regulations on distancing. There's there's a lot of space here. There's more space here than I find that I'm not coming in close contact with people more, you know, than I would if I went to the grocery store or a Quickie Mart. I find it much safer to be here. There's you know, plenty of space. It's almost safer to be here than if, you know, I went shopping. But you know, the important thing is with the installers, when they go out, you know, we're making a strong effort. We always have to do as much shop work as we can in the shop and eliminate any field cutting or trimming. You know, and in the past we would just normally do it, but it's definitely emphasized now because we don't want to prolong the amount of time on the job site, and we want to leave it to the chance that things are going to fit. So everything's dry fit in the shop. Backsplashes are staged, set up. Any drill holes that need to be done for faucets and grommets, etc. We really like to try to head that off in the beginning and define that as part of the shop work in-house. So, you know, in-house control is very important to us. You know, the rest of it is fairly routine. I mean, we have guidelines to follow. We don't see real instances where there's crowding or people working on top of one another. I think it's important also when the men go to the job site that the customers or what other trades are there are not hovering over them and not shadowing them, that they should have space to work and not be grouped together with other trades in the same room. But, you know, also at the same time, it's important, you know, in the warehouse and shop environment that we don't let the COVID issues overshadow our day-to-day safety concerns of slab handling, OSHA compliance, and, you know, various other things that are real issues and you know, something that shouldn't be dwarfed with respect to the pandemic concerns. So it gives us a lot of other things to talk about, and we still make that part of our routine where we want to make sure that people are clear on issues of slab handling and airborne silica and so forth. So it's not as complicated for us. I don't really have that many things that we can do to improve other than, you know, just reminding people of the protocols and our procedures and try to get them engaged with it and to try to feed off of any feedback we get from the workers.
Thank you, Jonathan. Corky.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting if you think about it. If we weren't talking about COVID right now in this webinar, we probably would be talking about silica and silica dust. And when you look at what we're having to do to take care of the COVID, you know, some people are putting up, you know, the plexiglass barriers between people, which I found out, or we found out, that there's a shortage of plexiglass out there all of a sudden. And so we've had to do a few different things. And when you look at it, it almost ties in with what our silica plan is, to remove silica or to keep the silica down. We've added, you know, 4 extra ventilation fans. So those were already in the process. We were getting those to help control our silica, but in turn, we found out that those are helping with our COVID. The more ventilation you get, the better off your shop is. When our guys are driving in their trucks, we tell them to keep your windows open. You know, both windows, get that ventilation going. Our biggest concern, and you know, maybe we can get some help from our you know, attendees here. You know, here in Colorado, winter's coming, and those windows are going to get closed on that truck. The exhaust fans are going to be blowing out our heat, so now the shop is probably going to get cold. Are we going to have to add more, you know, heat, you know, furnaces or ways to heat the water more, things like that. So I think come, you know, if this continues through winter, I think we're all going to be sitting here trying to put our heads together to figure out how we are going to, you know, keep that ventilation going. Some of the other things is, you know, on the job sites, again, we encourage our guys to do most of any kind of work outside. If they do have to do it inside, of course, they're using their HEPA filters. But then again, you know, here we are at summertime, they got all the windows and doors open on those houses that they're working in. I'm very concerned about what's going to happen this winter, and hopefully, you know, by then we have some of this COVID taken care of. But again, the silica is not going to go away. We need to stay vigilant on that.
Thanks, Corky. Just remember, we're in the opposite of you. During the summer, we got to have air conditioning when it's 99 degrees outside. So it's just a flip-flop. We all have that same issue in our parts of the country. Jeff, how about you, sir?
So GK, I know we were going to talk about silica and COVID on this call. Is this particular question directed to the COVID or both the silica and the COVID?
Well, what we have found was that there's so much parallel between the COVID safety and the silica safety that, you know, it might be good to talk about the silica right now, because we've already talked a little bit about the COVID.
Yeah, so obviously it's a big issue for our industry. It can kill people, it can shut you down as a business. It's real serious, and I feel safety, as always, is a lot about attitude. It's actually mostly about attitude, and people need to be aware. They need to buy into the fact that things can happen. I've found that especially younger people tend to think they're invincible. I have to remind people all the time, or younger guys, that they only have 2 eyes. So, you know, they should care about those 2 eyes more than I should care about those 2 eyes, but I have to still remind them to do things like simple things like wear glasses. But I think one of the things we do that hopefully a lot of people do is create a baseline. When you hire people for your operation, whether they're warehouse guys or shop guys or installers, have them do a physical. You want a baseline for where they are coming in. You want a physical baseline. That includes X-rays, which should uncover whether, because there's people that kind of jump shop or move to a different town or whatever, and you know, we're all glad to get somebody with a lot of experience, because as we all know, people are hard to find, and this is hard business to train. So, but you may be inheriting somebody else's, you know, maybe the company that person worked at didn't do things the way they should, and maybe this guy's been exposed to silica, and now that you've hired him, he's now yours. So create that baseline, you know, on your onboarding process, along with hearing as well. I mean, all those things that can be affected in your shop and in your environment. Get a baseline so you know you're starting with the person. We're a wet shop as well. We don't really do anything dry unless we choose to do it dry. Now, this is where the attitude comes in. Guys know that they've been trained on the silica, and then you find them, once in a while doing a little notch with without water, and you have to remind them, and they say, well, it's easier to do it when it's dry, and we have to. It's just, again, it's all attitude. They know what to do, but you have to just keep reminding them and make it part of your culture. We too limit the amount of cutting that's necessary in the field. We do that. I think it's smart anyways, but we implemented Ed Hill's synchronous flow back in 2016. And with that, we focus on install, elevating that constraint, making it the control point of our operation, therefore eliminating as much work as possible from the installers. So that kind of goes hand in hand anyways. Things that we all know as fabricators that we do. We perforate, cut cooktops. We actually go so far as to cut the splashes all at the length. Most of the time we win, sometimes we lose, but it just saves time, but also it eliminates the need to be cutting. And oftentimes you can't get water. It's difficult to get water on a blade in the field. And as I alluded to before, guys will take shortcuts when it's easier, and especially when you're not watching. So we also spray our floor regularly. We also have more air going through our shop this time of year. We also did something I think is important. We invited the Ohio BWC in here for several years now, and they've done, we've had guys wearing hearing monitors, so noise monitors, and also dust monitors. So we have a baseline of where our airborne silica is, and it's documented by a legitimate body. So I think that's important. I think you should literally do that every year, if not more often. That way you know where you are, it makes your employees comfortable, and you have something to stand on.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that, because we all like to see that the OSHA voluntary type thing comes in our shops. They're a big asset to us and not a deterrent. Okay, at this time we'd like to go on to our next sponsor, and we're looking at CMS and dry treatment. Okay, I think we're back now, and it's time to participate in the next poll. And if we look at the poll, it says, what's the new safety procedures you have implemented on your installation site? We're going to try and focus on the installation site now that we talked about the shop. One is the trade commercial, one trade, new sanitation policies, pre-installation calls for residential customers, and then special sanitation policies at the residential site. One of the things when I looked at our situation is the one trade on a site has been something that I've heard a lot of. I haven't seen a lot of experience on that, other than I know a couple of our panelists have. And then the insurance for general contractors. I don't know that any of them has contacted us on it, but that's something that we may be looking at. And then in a residential, I think it's important to document to the customer what procedures you're going to be expecting when you get to the site. It makes them feel better, and it also makes our employees feel better. That they know what they going into the job site, they'll know what they're performing. Okay, one trade on a job site. Nobody's done it. Evidently, Jonathan, you're in that area that's got that. New sanitation policies, 22%. Pre-installation call with residential customers seems to be the most popular that we're all, or most of us are doing. And then sanitation policies after the job site. Again, when I was looking at this, is what new PPEs the employees are using in the home. One of the things we all know is masks. All of our employees are going in with masks. And some of them actually are asking the customer if they feel they need the mask. They're definitely asking them to stay distanced while they're in a residential home, okay? And the same thing on commercial sites, especially if there's more trades than one. Jonathan, you want to start off on this one in your experiences, how it's been going up in the New Jersey area?
Yeah, there's been just a lot of variations because based on the job that you're going to, or the company you're doing business with, they all seem to have their own take on what they need to do. And so for us also, it's the pre-call before installation and any preliminary work that we can do to try to make sure that we have a clear path to go and do our work. I mean, it was like that in the past, sometimes there's other trades that are booked during the same period, like someone doing the floors and you can't get in. So we've heard, instances in the past before COVID that it's necessary to call ahead to make sure that, your workers aren't going to be inhibited or restricted in any way. New York City is a whole nother set of rules because you have the skyscrapers and the elevators and different types of requirements from the building, whether they have insurance requirements and so forth. So we're asking if, when we call, to make sure that we're covering what we already know and maybe some things that are new that we're going to get caught by surprise. So, it's been kind of tricky because we don't have one set of rules. There's a lot of variables. So we're just kind of exercising that muscle that we've had in the past where, we call ahead and we plan and we spend time also kind of, explaining to the employees also, these are the new conditions you might run into and, you need to be aware of it. And if there's things that you discover on the job sites, where obviously management is obviously not there, take the time, make a mental note of it and report it back so we can improve the situation next round or for the next crew. So, it's a new environment, but it's also an old environment where we just have to be a little more refined in our approach, and probably not a bad exercise for us to be continuing in the future in post-pandemic periods, because it just contributes to our concern, demonstrating our concern for our employees and our customers, and and the businesses that we do work with. So every day learning a new lesson.
Thanks, Jonathan. I'm sorry, Corky.
Yeah, just like Jonathan was saying, we've been doing, call before you show up. We've been giving them we give them a warning when they do set up their appointments, and then we do give them a day before warning. And then we also have our install crews call the sites, the home sites where there's people that are living in that facility. We do have our workers call them, and you let them know that, we will be wearing masks. We appreciate you if you're wearing masks. What's one good thing that's come out of this? What our installers are saying, hey, this is great. We don't have people breathing over our backs while we're installing. So it's helped them out a little bit to keep them people from watching them. Also, we have some of our commercial contractors are requesting us the day of or even the day before to send them a form filled out of who's coming, their names, all their contact information. So they are getting ready for, if there's any tracing that needs to be done to, if any type of virus is detected with anybody that's been in that building, they have an easy access and can track them down, which I think is very important. The other thing we've been doing with our installers is, every truck, of course, has sanitizer on board. We give them little pump bottles. They can wipe down their steering wheel. They can wipe down their seat belts, their door handles, things like that, plus their hands, of course. And it's a tricky situation, but it seems like our installers are making the best of it.
Great, thank you, Corky. Jeff, how about your area?
So we don't do a tremendous amount of commercial like Corky does, but so we don't deal with the commercial contract or the commercial job site issues with too many subs and whatnot. But as far as the homeowners go, it's really been kind of like it is in the rest of the world, where you just have to be considerate about how people feel. There's people all over the spectrum of how they feel about it. Some aren't threatened at all, and some are terrified. And we wear masks up to the house. We ask them if they want us to continue to wear the mask. We also kind of talk to them about what we're going to do, and we clean the countertops afterwards, disinfect them. I don't know that it necessarily does a whole lot, but it does show consideration, and that's, in my opinion, just as important. But things like with the installers, oftentimes we have the need to send 3 people out, and our trucks can hold 3 people if they're sitting 2 inches apart. And so I don't know that it makes a heck of a lot of difference, but when we can, we use another extra vehicle to go to those job sites. Whether you get 2 guys in the front of an NPR truck, I'm not sure that a third person's going to matter or not, to be honest with you. But we do it anyways, and we do it for consideration, and hopefully we get some benefit out of it. But yeah, that's about it. I mean, we found that our customers are generally okay. They're not overly threatened. Then the people who would be completely threatened with us showing up probably aren't going to have us come anyway. So we haven't had a real big issue with it. It's like I said, it just keeping everybody, just being considerate in all directions at all times.
For the panel, I'd like to ask one more question. As far as customers, I know in the residential community in our company, I think we've only had 5 cancellations during the COVID period. over hundreds and hundreds of installations where the customer asked us not to come until maybe after the pandemic and delayed the job. Can each of y'all kind of give me about anything about how you've experienced in that? Jeff, you want to go first?
Sure. So we were always considered essential right from the beginning. But as I mentioned before, everybody was all over the spectrum of how they felt. So we had to really manage as much. It seemed like we had people actually angry with us because we had employees who were very uncomfortable at that early stage that didn't want to go out. And we took a very liberal stance on it. Said, look, we understand how you feel. We're not going to force you to work. You can stay home. You can collect unemployment, whatever you want to do. We didn't feel like we wanted to press them, to force them to do something they weren't comfortable with. So where it all shook out is we operated somewhere around a 50 or 60% of normal because of that. Not so much that people didn't want us to come. It was more of our ability to get our workers to work. And we had very few people say don't come. I imagine we had a couple, but I do remember a lot of people, they were understanding, but they were very impatient that we weren't going to get there. So I found that kind of surprising.
Good. Corky, how about your area?
Yeah, one of the things that, when we do that call a day before, we do a survey of their household, and we ask, has anybody been, out of the country, anybody running a temperature, anybody susceptible? And, at first we weren't comfortable doing that, but we've gotten feedback from our customers going, wow, we appreciate you, caring about us or showing care or showing some empathy. And it is put them at ease that we are trying to do everything we can at our end before we even show up to their house. We've only had, I think, one or two that have just, canceled out, said, no, we can't have anybody come by until later. But I think just going through those motions of asking those questions does send a positive note to the customers and makes them feel like they're dealing with a professional company that does care about their health.
Thank you. Jonathan.
Yeah, in the beginning it was a little tricky. There was no real rules written. We had some of our employees got spooked. If someone had a cough, all of a sudden you turn around and half your guys went home. And then you have to kind of be compassionate and feel for them and their concerns and their fears, and bring it into real terms. Unless there was someone sick, I mean, there's really no reason to abandon your station and leave, especially when management is depending on your output in order to do their job. On management side, we're trying to thread a needle, get it onto job sites where there's other trades, where there's concerns. We've had our installation crews concerned in the very beginning. They wouldn't even enter the house unless it was completely vacant and pre-sanitized. And then we've had it on the customer side where, what are we going to do when we go in, and how are we going to sanitize the areas that we've come in contact with? So, it's like Jeff said, the concern and the respect that you have for other people goes a long way. We've come also a long way from the beginning where it was, it was a big question mark. We didn't know. It was new territory for all of us. But for us, we got hit with it pretty hard in the beginning. It was a shock. Virtually every business was shut. I know of a few companies that just had to sit it out on the sidelines, even though they're considered essential businesses. They just sat it out, and now we're a little smarter, a little more aware of the things and the threats. So we've managed to come up with some creative ideas to get around it. and also the knowledge that we have about the limitations and restrictions on job sites. So, we go into it with good knowledge, and also with the open mind that schedules may have to be altered or canceled or pushed back or pushed up because we're working around variables that are not fixed, that we have to work, in a changing environment. And I think it goes two ways between our company and the companies that we service. And to be quite honest with you, people have been very receptive to it. I've been put to the challenge of meeting certain schedules, tight schedules. We finish the goods, we're ready to install, everything is fixed and ready to go. And then I get a call last minute that the guy, another trade, couldn't do his job, a cabinet maker or whoever, and that impacted our job. So it just kind of set the schedule back. So anything can happen. Even when you make hard commitments, they can still change. This is just the time, in the period that we're working with right now. Everyone needs to understand.
Right. Yeah, thank you, John. I got one other question that we were addressed with is workflow in shop. And what we're talking, the question to that is, our industry was in this COVID, I think, very lucky because we were considered an essential business, so we could keep working. We weren't shut down. Thank God we weren't in the restaurant business right now. We'd all be talking a different story because we couldn't even get our people back because of the unemployment dollars. But one of the things I was concerned about is how the volume affected your company, and was there some downtime that y'all could actually do some improvements to your shop? I know in our facility we cross-trained people, we're doing some different things, but we had the first month we had probably at least a 65% downturn because we do some big box type work and that kind of shut down. But then it picked up to where now we're on target. How about your company, Jonathan? How did y'all fare in that event?
Well, business fell off like a cliff. It was really kind of shocking, but it was all around us. Anyone that we spoke to, the people that I heard feedback from, we didn't feel alone. It was everyone in the area. Things have changed and improved dramatically since then. But talking about the time, we used it as quality time. I still came to work. We still had our employees coming in. We gave them the flexibility to come in, whether they wanted to or not, leave it up to them because we didn't want to impose anything on them that would, impact their health if they felt it was a threat. But we used the time. I mean, taking Natural Stone Institute classes online was great. I know I did some refresher courses on geology myself and slab handling just to see, what's going on. We reviewed our health and safety plan and, a bunch of other things that are safety concerns too, looking at our vacuum systems, blade guards, other silica concerns and issues. So there was still a lot of things to exercise and to improve, and it gave us a lot of quality time to do that without interruption, which happens infrequently. I don't know that I'm going to see those days. I hope I don't see those days again. But when I have time, I know where I'm going to go. I'm going to go to the Natural Stone Institute website and see what other information I can gather and improve on.
Thanks. Corky, how about your company? How did that affect you?
Yeah, it's interesting listening to you guys, sort of on the East Coast, we call it here in Colorado. But here we haven't missed a lick. We are probably 25% more than we were doing last year. They say there's a recession, but we're busier than all get out, and we can't afford to lose anybody. What we've been doing is, we did lose a crew for a week, and the other crews all stepped up and helped out. They knew that's what it was going to take to keep our customers happy, so there's been some rewarding we've been doing. If the guys do their 40 hours plus an extra day, they get a little bit of a bonus, not only on their time and a half, but an extra bonus to help them out. The owner is, matter of fact, today we have a food truck sitting out in front, and everybody got a meal ticket. gets to order something from the food truck, and it's all just, the bosses out there, thank you guys for doing whatever you've been doing through this, because, tempers are, short right now. People are tired, and with workers having to work overtime, we're really pushing, to staying healthy, get a good night's sleep, eat correctly, don't be out, hooting with the owls all night. And so we've been pushing that. But what was really nice is, and just like Jonathan was saying, the cross training, we've had several people from the shop end up, going on installs, and the janitor actually helping out in the shop, and just everybody's just pulling together. And if you can keep that culture going where everybody wants to help out and working for that common goal, I think it'll help every company out. And those are just a few of the things we've been doing.
Great. Jeff, how about you guys?
So we too do some box work. It's the minority percent of our business, but that particular business did drop off, as many others has as well. But we have a diverse amount of business. We have some retail and builder and designer work, things like that. So we, like I mentioned earlier, we throttled back mostly because of us and our consideration for our employees working more than it was for our customers, and lack of work. When we finally did get the blessing to go back to work in early May, we were very cautious. We had a team put together to figure out how we were going to schedule. We had to figure out all the logistics of getting all the sideline jobs back in. One of our markets, Michigan, did get shut down for a period of time. So we did have to sideline some of those jobs. Not that the people didn't want them, but the governor forced the jobs to not happen. So, we had to balance like who we brought back at what time, what's the demand going to look like. And boy, I'll tell you, I'm with Corky. I don't want to say we never missed a lick, because it was a little rocky there for a while, but it has come back in a big way. And it's a problem, good problem, but a problem nonetheless. We have more work coming in that we can get done. And I'm finding it surprising that we can't, with as many people that are unemployed and as much uncertainty as there is in the job market, that we aren't seeing more people apply for jobs. We still are getting people, getting phone screened and then not showing up for the interview. It's just astonishing to me. So we're trying to build our team up right now, and we're having a heck of a time doing it. So we have plenty of work.
Great, yeah. Well, thanks, guys. Aaron, I was going to turn it over to you now, or Mark, if there's any other questions out.
Is it question time, or we at a next set of ads to run to real quick?
No, we're at question time if you need it.
Okay. We have a couple ads real quick.
Oh, the ads. I'm sorry. Boy, am I bad. Thank you. Now we have a word from our sponsor, B&B Industries and Integra. Okay, we're back. And sorry about missing that intro there. I just misread my lead sheet. Aaron and Mark, are there any other questions that we need to address?
Yeah, we've got a few questions coming in. We had David in California said that denatured alcohol that Corky's using is outlawed in the state of California. Do you know of any other similar chemicals or disinfectants that might be available? I know that even isopropyl is a challenge to find rubbing alcohol in certain my part of the country. I don't know if you have any other ideas for him.
Corky, do you want to handle that one?
Boy, I wish I could help them out there in California because, yeah, we shopped around and we could not get any, and that's how we ended up with denatured alcohol. There's one product out there. If you see these companies that are doing this fogging, I'm trying to remember the name of the product, but pretty impressive. It does not, if you get your hands on it, I think we bought the last gallon in Colorado, and but you have to get this $700 fogging machine that goes with it. And I've seen advertisements for companies that do this, but very user friendly. They were spraying food with it, and they say it doesn't hurt the food, but it does kill the germs. Have to do some research and see if I can find the name of that product.
Yeah. Okay, Jeff, what do y'all use to clean up on the job site? You muted, Jeff. Okay. I think they muted us.
There you go. Yeah, he muted me. I'm sorry to say I don't know exactly what we're using, but I certainly can find out and post it up later.
Okay, great. Jonathan, how about you?
Well, we, haven't really had too much difficulty getting, sanitizers and the supplies that we need. Maybe California has stricter rules than New Jersey, but, I think there's a lot of options out there, people getting creative. So, I'd have to do the research in order to find out alternatives to the products that we're already using.
Yeah. We're able now to buy a lot of sanitizers on the market. For a period there, you couldn't find anything anywhere, even our supply companies. But now I think the supply of sanitizers are available. Again, I don't know if they meet that 60% alcohol rule or whatever that is, but I know there are a lot of them available at our supply companies. Mark, another question you said you had?
Yeah, Jim in Ohio asks that assumes that some of your staff is likely working from home or transition to working from home. Have you discovered any positions that you might continue that post-COVID or when we can all safely return to work?
Jonathan, you had mentioned some of yours were working from home, or gave them the option of.
Yeah, we gave people the option, but fortunately, we haven't had that issue. The only experience that we have with people working at home are my customers. So we've been tracking them down, and we seem to be overcoming those hurdles. But for us, for our group here, nobody chose to work remotely. We did have a couple of people, back out. Their spouses were concerned, so they wanted them to stay home. And as soon as they can get us a comfort level, I think, my worst case was I got a guy, he stepped out for 2 days, made sure his wife was comfortable. But his wife hadn't left the house. She was quarantining herself, and there's a handful of people that, is a very good friend of mine, literally hasn't left his house since it started in March. Except to go outside and maybe get a breath of fresh air. But everything he buys, from water to toilet paper, gets delivered in an Amazon box. So everyone's different.
One of the things that's interesting in that is that, we're finding from yesterday's conversation that online selling and online communication has increased in our facilities, including meetings between our two companies and so forth, our three companies and so forth. Jeff, have you had any furloughed employees or employees that are working home?
Yeah, absolutely. We moved a bunch of people home when it all first hit. We had our entire project management team. We had our CAD team home. The ones that actually could work, we have some people that live in remote areas that have terrible internet. So we brought them in and kept them spread apart. But for the most part, anyone who could be home was, and that's okay. We did okay. I am personally not a fan of having people at home. I know that you can do the functions, but I think you miss out on a lot of human to human interaction, and that's a big part of culture. And it's just a really difficult environment to operate in. And you know, we have some new people, and when in the instance of a project manager, the supervisors want to listen in on those conversations to see how they're performing, and you can't do that stuff. All the little nuances that help you get better are just more difficult when they're home. Now, I've talked to some other fabricators. I talked to Jeffrey out in Chicago, and he still has his project managers all home. So we just had a recent issue where someone was positive here. So we had to go through all that, and much of our at least a good part of our project management staff is back at home again per our protocol when that happens. So like I said, I'm not a fan of it, but we do what we must right now.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, the only people that we have working from home still is our accountants, our templators. They show up for a little bit, just to check in the morning, but they basically take their all their information home, and thank God they got the good internet connections there, and they get that information back to us for making those countertops. But yeah, we still got a few that are home, but they're they don't like being called non-essential, but they're hanging in there and doing their job.
Hey, Gene,
Mark.
Jeff Erickson, specific to the baseline text testing you mentioned earlier, can you share approximate cost per employee, or where do you go to get that testing, both the shop testing and the medical evaluations?
Like I said, we went through the Bureau of Workers' Comp in Ohio. I'm sure it's different in different states, but that's who we used. It wasn't much of a cost at all, to be honest with you. And I will tell you, the last time we did it, they seemed to be really backed up and somewhat reluctant to come and do it. So I don't know what it's going to look like when we go get it tested again. We may have to get a private company to come in and do the same thing, which is fine. It's not awfully expensive. In fact, it's negligible compared to the risk.
So you've gone to a private company?
Can I chime in on that?
Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, it's interesting that question came up right in the middle of the COVID. When COVID started, we were in the middle of a free OSHA consultation from Colorado State University, who is the arm of OSHA, and they do it's a free service. I think this is nationwide. You just got to find the right place. And they were doing our air testing and noise testing here in the shop, and they were just getting ready to go out on our installs when they got sidetracked, and now they're all working on COVID projects. But what they did, they told me you can actually do that testing yourself. There's some companies out there with a minimal cost. I think it's like $100, but they'll give you a free pump. They'll do as long as they do the air sampling, they'll let you use that pump for free. I think they give you 2 weeks to use it, and then you send your samples in, and they got videos to tell you how to do it. And our consultant recommended using that because, yeah, they're backed up, just like Jeff was saying, and they're just so busy. It's at least 6 months out before they can get your site.
One of the things we did in Alabama's facility, and we do it in the other ones too, town to town, is the lung testing, lung breathing testing, like Jeff was talking about, get that baseline up front when an employee comes in. There are many hospitals that have industrial care units, and they'll have a big SUV type or a recreational vehicle type mobile testing site, and they bring it straight to the company, and you can get your employees tested for their, a baseline for each employee then,
Great. I think we have time for one more
cost.
question for you guys from Deanna. She asked if you could share more information on silica exposure and OSHA compliance. I know all you guys are knowledgeable on that topic.
I'd like to start with that, GK.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so, we talked a little bit about the OSHA on-site consultation, and Corky's been making good use out of it. It's a great tool that's funded by taxpayer dollars. It could be used either a full comprehensive evaluation or specific issues. So if you just wanted your consultant to come in and do air sampling and decibel levels, they could just do for that. There's some guidelines to follow, and when you're inviting OSHA on-site into your facility, you ought to know that it's not a compliance officer that's visiting you. This is someone who's a consultant level who's coming in to help you. But if they do come across issues that could be potential OSHA violations, you would be responsible to rectify them in a reasonable period of time. Some people may, avoid the OSHA on-site consultation for that reason. They feel they're inviting OSHA into their facility. They're really not, but these people do have an obligation if they see something that's a potential hazard that they want you to remedy it, and if not, then you can face potential fines. It's very rare that an employer is going to discount anything that's given to him that could threaten the health of his employees. So I would just expect that any legitimate business owner would follow, whatever suggestions are made by these people. But it's free service, can't beat it. And they do forklift training, 2 languages, so a lot to be benefited.
Great. Jeff or Corky?
I don't have a lot of additional to offer on it other than what I already said. It's just, look, you got to do it the right way. The consequences of not doing it the right way are just too high. So, open it up and have somebody that knows what they're doing come in and get you straightened around. Don't be afraid of it.
One of the things we've used here is, Natural Stone Institute has that little template for a silica program, which was actually our OSHA consultant looked at that and said, now this is a good thorough program. It's a very easy template to use. Of course, you got to use it and read it, and it's a good program. Also, if you go to the OSHA website, osha.gov, through the Susan Harwood grants, there's a lot of different people that have put together silica training. We've been working with National Jewish Hospital up in Denver, and they've actually used our facility and some of our workers and training to put together some of this. And again, it's free training. They put videos together, tests together, pamphlets, things like that. So there's quite a bit of information on that OSHA.gov site that you can use for training your workers and to educate yourself on silica.
I will say the threshold now, that's been the big issue. The threshold that OSHA has pressed on the silica is very low. It doesn't take a lot to be over that threshold. So we've had to go, even the back of slabs can create enough dust or silica in the air to cause a problem. So you want to be doing the washing your floor in your warehouse even. You want to get these things out there, these procedures that you do every day, and just do them every day. Do them at the interval you're supposed to do them, and don't skimp on it.
Scrubbing the floors is such a big component You know, it's a fact that stirring up the dust on your floor generates sometimes more dust that you can generate in the shop. Some people have readings outside of their shop where they have either gravel or dirt road. The guys are driving around on forklifts, and the readings are higher outside than inside. So, you know, proper housekeeping is great. We have a floor scrubber. We do it routinely. Makes a big difference and a great impression to any clients coming in, people judging our, you know, first impressions, how we run our facility. But, you know, the dust is something that is definitely controllable. You know, and certain things, just like little habits of like using compressed air to blow off dust on your clothes, or removing contaminated clothes before, you know, your employee enters his vehicle and then, you know, spreads the dust to his home and his family. But, you know, small things make a big difference. And, you know, I know all these points are all brought up in the literature and information from the Stone Institute. But it's great to exercise them and not lose focus that there's important hazards to be aware of, other than, you know, the one that's daunting us now with COVID. You know, silica is a big issue, and I'm a pretty big advocate too. I think Natural Stone Institute members should always encourage people to cut natural stone. You know, most of the studies and the issues, lawsuits developing out of exposure to airborne silica are generated from, you know, it's very strong in the engineered quartz spectrum, and just gives you another reason to cut natural stone, particularly materials, calcium carbonate or others with little or no silica in them.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And, you know, we're at the end of our summit now. And I'd like to turn it over to Aaron. I want to thank Aaron and the NSI for helping us put this on. And I appreciate you guys' assistance. So, Aaron, would you like to take it over?
Thank you, GK. I want to first thank everybody, GK and the panel, give you a virtual round of applause. You did a great job. A lot of great information came out the last 2 days, and we really appreciate the information. A number of people have asked where they could get access to the videos from today and yesterday. In addition to receiving a follow-up email, we have also placed this course in the Natural Stone University. You can get there by going to www.uofstone.com. We will also place this on the Stone Industry Education website. That's one of our partners with Stone. We're partners with Stone World in this program, so you'll be able to access that class in either of those venues. We'll have a number of those templates. People were asking about the silica control plan, HR, human resources plans. We'll have a number of documents on that class so that you can access those. On behalf of the Natural Stone Institute and Stone World Magazine, we want to thank you for coming out to the virtual 2-day Stone Summit, and we look forward to communicating with you more about some of the upcoming events. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.